If I could sing, I'd do that for you, but we don't want to hear that. You know, when they said that we only had 2 minutes, what I wanted to say was going to be 3 or 4. If I'd have known that, I'd have gave someone else my 2 minutes. But anyway, I was going to start off with a real short quote, real short. Edmund Burke, I don't know if any of you know him. One who wishes to preserve consistency, but who would preserve consistency by varying his means to secure the unity of his end, and when the equipoise of the vessel in which he sails may be endangered by overloading it upon one side, is desirous of carrying the small weight of his reasons to that which may preserve its equipoise. Now, what that means to me is just 2 more minutes. Yeah, but I guess call the cops because they want to hear this, sir. All right. I believe we Carolinians have an opportunity to right a ship. You see, we as a people, when faced with a problem, have a tendency to put all the rocks on one side of the ship. This strategy will cause a ship to flounder in rough seas, definitely leading to trouble, maybe even sinking. The trees in the median of I-26 between I-95 and 17A are our rocks. Please, no tree is worth one man's life. So if we decide to take the trees, so be it. But I, as a humble and average citizen, would like to ask you all, since no one else is here, a few rhetorical questions, and I have a few recommendations. The questions I would like you to consider, and would like to make at least a few recommendations that I would like you to hear. Can you hear me? Yeah. 2 minutes, you want to talk? All right. Question number 1, do the trees reach out and grab cars off the road? Why do the cars leave the road? Blowouts? Inattentive driving? I'm trying to be kind, though, for them sometimes. Could it be unintended, unsafe, and even inappropriate behavior while driving? Driving too closely? Tailgating? You know, honestly, I thought there's a rule here when I watch people drive that you have to drive within 10 feet of the car in front of you. Well, if you're doing that at 70 miles an hour, and if they tap their brakes, you're going off the road or you're going to hit somebody. Are these studies of the accidents at certain times of day, like when people are on their way to and from Columbia to go to work? The resultant behavior from the stress from such a long trip to and from work is understandable. But this cultural behavior can and should be addressed. The money to make the changes, I just heard $5 million. You could add $1 million, hire 3 state police, 5 years, 3 shifts, and they can monitor the behavior on those 3 shifts. And I could explain it better, but anyway, for 5 years at less than $1 million. You know, not only is it going to add jobs, you know, just 3 jobs, but it'll help address immediate concerns of that behavior of rage and following too closely. South Carolina Driver's Ed, good program. High school curriculum is an elective. It means you can choose it or not. So our kids have a choice of choosing to learn how to drive in a classroom environment. The state requirement for obtaining a driver's license, 40 hours of driving behind the wheel. The school gives them 6. Now, I want them to be mentored properly by their parents. They can do that. But, you know, really under curriculum and correct driving procedures, like how far to follow somebody. Show commercials reflecting appropriate, polite behavior. Low Country's known for. on how to drive and respect other people while they're driving. LED signs on I-26 warning about safe vehicle separation, and our state police will ensure you maintain it. Look, these are just some ideas and recommendations. We all realize that it's not just a DOT issue. These trees are our trees, and our driving is more than just a DOT problem. Which side of these trees are stowed on our ship is more than one department. This will take a joint effort from multiple departments, education, DOT, and us. And I believe on this day, South Carolinians have a chance for real hope and real change, tangible change. To not just cut down trees and put a barrier up. On this day, we can implement the beginning of behavioral change and even lead the nation in actually fixing problems, not just throwing money at deeper rooted problems. On this day, South Carolinians have an opportunity to right a ship, save some trees, save some lives. Look at that. Thank you, and sorry for the informality and busted in.
Williamson, I'm the Director of Environmental Services for the Department of Transportation. I'd like to welcome you here this evening for the public hearing for the I-26 Median Safety Improvement Project from I-95 to near Somerville. I'd like to introduce a few individuals first before we get started. And recognize our FHWA representative, Mr. Dan Hinton. He is here this evening. Our Director of Traffic Engineering, Tony Shepard, is actually going to get up in a few moments and give you an overview of the project. And we have a few councilmen here this evening. Dorchester County Councilman George Bailey is here. County Councilman Larry Argett is here. And County Councilman David Chinnis is here. And also this evening we have South Carolina DOT Commissioner Jim Rozier, and Commissioner Rozier would like to speak to you just one moment.
Folks, I just want to welcome you all here, first of all. I don't know if everybody got here or not. It's been pretty difficult to get here tonight. I think I went around the world to get here with that concrete truck turned over up there, but hopefully everybody's gotten here. I want to talk to you just for a second. We're trying to decide how to make the stretch of highway safe. That's the one thing we're talking about. I want to assure you that no decision has been made yet. Decision is not going to be made by me, it's not going to be made by DOT. It's going to be made by the Council of Governments Board. And I love your trees and I want to leave them too, so I'm all on your side. We just got to figure out how to safely do it. The Council of Governments is made up of representatives from all the counties and the cities in our Tri-County area. And our legislative body in Columbia, the General Assembly, has given them the right to make this decision. That's good. I think the closer you get the people, the better off you are with decisions being made like this. They'll meet sometime the end of February, I think, and that's when I think that the vote will be taken on this. We are here tonight to listen to you, give you some information, then listen to you. And I assure you, I'm here to listen and learn. No decision's been made. You know, oftentimes you come to government meetings, you think decisions have been made, sometimes they might be, but this one's not made yet. And we're here to listen. There are people from the Council of Governments here to listen. Ron Mitchell, the Director of Council of Governments, is here. And we're looking forward to learning from you. Thank you very much for coming. I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
And I'm not leaving. I'm just up to sit up front. I'm going to sit over here a little ways.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now I'd like to introduce Tony Shepard. Tony is the Director of Traffic Engineering for the Department of Transportation, and Tony's going to give you a brief overview of the project and how we got to this point.
Thank you, Randy. As Randy said, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Randy said I'm the Director of Traffic Engineering. One of the areas under my purview is safety projects that we do within the state. And it's a data-driven process that we go through to identify locations and then also look at potential solutions to those problems that we uncover and reveal that are known safety issues. We kind of introduced this project actually back October 2012 before our commission, and had some discussion and dialogue about it. And over the time since then, there's been a lot of questions, a lot of comments that we've received from various sources. So I'm going to kind of try to answer some of those questions tonight through this presentation and as I go forward. First is just real quick a project corridor. Of course, as it's been mentioned, this I-26 from I-95 to Summerville. There you can see in the little map kind of depicts the area that we're talking about. It's highlighted. A couple of things to note to carry forward is posted speed limit on that section of road is 70 miles an hour. The crash statistics that we utilized when we were looking at this corridor was from January 2007 to November 2011. At this point in time, that's a little dated information, but we've kept it consistent through the presentations we've done, as this is the data that this section was identified on. As you can see there, I give some information concerning the total crashes, almost 2,000 total crashes on this roughly 30-mile corridor. While that number is significantly large, the point of interest here is that is actually about an average rate of crashes on the interstate for a 30-mile corridor. So while the number is large, there is nothing abnormal about that number. The abnormal item that caught our attention was the fatalities. During that time period, we had 44 fatalities. What's abnormal to us about that is that's about 20% higher than the state average for a corridor of this type, when you compare it to corridors. And also, we note the total number of injuries, and we'll talk more about injuries that we look at as we went through our process as well. Another interesting item that jumped out at us is nearly 50% of all the crashes along this section, the vehicle left or ran off the roadway. And that is really double what the state average that we see on a normal interstate segment. And also, this corridor was one that the Postal Courier did some coverage on back in 2010, in discovering and talking about the deaths that occurred on this corridor as well. And if I may, before I leave the slide back up to actually the first bullet that I accidentally skipped over, Act 114 in the restructuring bill for DOT requires that we rank all of our projects. And this segment of interstate actually ranked #1 and #3 on our ranking of interstates for safety improvements. The Berkeley County section was actually #1, Dorchester was #3. Just a quick aerial shot of the corridor. Of course, I can't get the entire corridor in the picture, but it's very similar along the whole corridor. Basically, you've got 2 lanes of travel in each direction with a median, which has trees within that median area. And then, of course, you've got the trees on the right side, on the shoulder side as well. A lot of questions we were asked was, why are we looking at the median? We took and analyzed the crashes that involved fatalities and what's known as, with the reporting from Highway Patrol, as incapacitating injuries. Basically, they rank injuries based from 0 to 4, where 4 is a fatality. When I'm talking about incapacitating injury, I'm talking about a 3. There's borderline accidents that can move up to the fatality. As you can see, when we looked at those particular accidents, that the occurrence of those were the crashes were twice as likely to occur in the median, fatalities were 3 to 4 times greater in the median, and the incapacitating injuries were 2 times greater in the median versus the right shoulder in all cases. And in looking at the median itself, there are some things that kind of play and define why you would expect that to occur. One, the existing median width is 84 to 86 feet in this corridor, except for one small segment up around Harleyville. And when I'm talking about median width for the presentation, I'm talking about from the yellow edge line to the yellow edge line on the opposing direction of travel, not just the earth section. In that median, we have a 2 to 3 foot paved shoulder to the left, to the median side. And then once you get off of that paved shoulder, excuse me, you get onto the earthen shoulder, which rolls into a slope. And the slope is one of the main areas that we have kind of focused on. The slopes are such that when a vehicle gets there, it kind of pulls the vehicle to the bottom of that slope. Well, unfortunately, at these locations through here, pretty much at the bottom of the slope is where the tree lines are occurring, pretty much at the 25 foot from that edge line. The national standard or guidance for what's known as clear zone or recovery area for a motorist. It's an area that's free of obstacles that a motorist, if they leave the roadway, how much room do they need to regain control of their vehicle? The standard for a 70-mile-an-hour roadway is 46 feet, is what we're looking at. The interesting thing is, because of those slopes